Hi, this is Tom Stokel, Global Technical Lead for AutoCAD Product Support. In this tutorial, I'm going to walk you through the process of doing a standalone installation of AutoCAD 2010. The difference between a standalone installation and a network installation is that a standalone license allows you to run an Autodesk product on a single workstation, whereas a network license requires connection to a machine running a network license manager in order for AutoCAD to get a license to run. One of the keys to a successful installation are the things that you do before you begin. This is preparation and information that you gather before you actually begin the install process. The first thing I recommend is review the installation documentation before you begin installing. Take time to familiarize yourself with the docs that are there. There's a lot of documentation that's available on your installation media, and you can also get at this information from within the installer. Many of the questions that were asked in product support are already addressed in the documentation that comes with the product. So take a few minutes and familiarize yourself with the docs. The next thing to do is check your system requirements. Again, this is information that's available in the documentation, and you can also get this information from the Autodesk website. Make sure that your machine has enough RAM, enough free hard disk space, and that you're running a supporting operating system. Then confirm your administrative permissions. In order to install AutoCAD, you must have administrator permissions. You don't have to have domain administrator permissions, but you do need to have administrative rights in order to do the installation. Once the installation is done, you don't need administrative permissions to run AutoCAD. You can run AutoCAD as a limited user. Make sure you turn off any virus checking software that you have running on your system before you start installing. Most virus software does real-time checks of files as they're being put on your system. And not only can this slow down the installation process, but it can actually introduce errors. So make sure your virus checking software is turned off before you install, and then turn it back on when you're done. It's also a good idea to close any programs that are running. There are some applications like Microsoft Outlook, for example, that can get in the way of an installation and can actually introduce data loss. So before you start installing, turn off anything else that's running. If you're a subscription customer and you're planning on installing AutoCAD in a different or additional language, now would be a good time to go to the subscription center and download that language pack. Don't wait until you get to that point in the installation. Go ahead and find the language pack now so it's already extracted and available on your local hard drive. And one of the most important steps is locate your serial number and product key. When you install AutoCAD, you're going to be prompted for both the serial number and product key on the product and user information page. This information can be found in a couple of different places. If you have a physical media, if you have the box, then it'll be printed on the outside of the box. Here you can see the serial number and product key. I've kind of blurred the serial number because these are live numbers, but trust me, there's an actual 8-digit number under there. So the first place is to look is your box. If you get it by way of electronic fulfillment, then there would have been an email sent to you that looks something like this. And that email also will include the serial number and product key for the product. And finally, if you're a subscription customer, you can log into the subscription center, go to Contract Administration, and you can find the serial number and product key for all of the products in your subscription. So it's a good idea to make sure you have all of this information before you begin installing. All right, let's take a look at the installation wizard. Here we have the installation wizard for AutoCAD 2010. If you're installing from a DVD, then this should launch automatically when you put the DVD in your machine. If for some reason it doesn't launch automatically, or if you're installing from downloaded media, then you'll want to launch the setup.exe file that is in your product media. You can see the different options of things you can do with the installation wizard. From installing products to creating deployments, installing network licensing tools, and then the documentation. The documentation, again, is something that's very important to read. If you click on this, this will open up links to all of the PDF files that are in your installation media. And then you can browse to any one of these guides to get more information about what you're working on. So for our cases, we'll choose to install products. One thing I want to point out is this sidebar of links. These are links to most of the commonly asked questions and information that you'll need to do an installation. A quick start guide, the full installation guide, reviewing system requirements, graphics card driver updates, and information about installing Design Review. These links will change depending on the page you're on. So it's a good idea to kind of keep an eye over there and just see if there's information there that you may need. So it's already pre-selected AutoCAD 2010, and this is an English version, so that's the only option available to me. If I were installing AutoCAD 2010 in another language, I could choose select language for individual products, and then from here I could browse and select a language pack that I had previously downloaded from the subscription center. I'm not going to spend any time going over that. I've covered that in another video, and you can review that separately. So we'll just take English and hit Next. The next thing you need to do is review the Autodesk Software License Agreement for your country or region. You need to accept this agreement before you can proceed with the installation. So you can read through it, and then once you're done, you hit Accept, press Next. On the Product and User Information page, this is where you'll enter your serial number, product key, and any information. If you haven't purchased AutoCAD yet and you don't have a serial number or product key, you can enter all zeros in these fields, and it will install it as a 30-day trial version. At the end of 30 days, you'll need to activate it in order to keep using it. The information you enter here is permanent, and it's displayed in the Help menu, and you can't change this later, so you need to make sure you put the information in correctly. At this point, you can choose to either do a typical installation, or you can choose to customize the installation. For a typical installation, the license type will be standalone, install type is typical, express tools are installed, and it'll install to a default location. If you choose install at this point, you'll get one more screen that lets you know you are using a default configuration. It just wants to make sure that that's what you meant to do. So I'll say no at this point to show you a custom configuration. So to do that, choose the Configure button. First thing to choose is whether you're doing a standalone license or a network license installation. In our case, we'll just leave it at standalone, which is the default. And now you can choose the installation type. And I will choose Custom. And at this point, I can choose to not include certain features or add features that are typically excluded. For example, if I don't want to include drawing encryption, or I don't want to include the license transfer utility, I can uncheck those from the list. Also, I can include those items that are not included in a typical installation, such as tutorials for Visual Lisp. I can choose whether or not to have an AutoCAD shortcut created on my desktop, and I can also change the default installation path. At any point, I can get back to the original default settings just by choosing the Restore Defaults button. And I'll choose Next. Now the installation wizard has contacted Autodesk to find out if there are any service packs available. So at this point, I can choose to let it download the one service pack that's available for AutoCAD 2010. Or if I've already downloaded service packs to my local drive, I can choose this option and then add them into this list, or I can have it not include the service pack at all. I'll choose to let it download the service packs. Once the download is complete, I can press Next, and I have completed the configuration. I'm now ready to begin installing, and I'll do that by choosing Configuration Complete. It gives me one more chance to review any of the settings that I've changed, and I'll choose Install. It begins by installing the different components that are needed, such as DirectX 9, and then it moves into installing AutoCAD and then the AutoCAD English language pack. This list may vary depending on what you already have on your system. For example, if my .NET installation wasn't up to date, you would see that in the sidebar as well as another element that's being installed. So I've skipped ahead a few minutes and my installation has completed successfully. Again, the sidebar has changed to give me links to some of the commonly asked questions at this stage, such as migrating my settings, registering the product, activation, etc. If you want to view the installation log for what was just done, it shows this location here, and then gives you the option to view the AutoCAD README. I always recommend viewing the READMEs, so I'll leave that checked and hit Finish. And it brings up the AutoCAD README file. And this file has really good information about AutoCAD that may not be included in the documentation. So now I've completed my installation and I'm ready to launch AutoCAD and go through the initial setup and activation process. In summary, I've walked you through a list of the things you should do to prepare yourself for a successful installation and the information you should gather ahead of time, and then I walked you through the process of actually doing the installation. I know this was kind of a quick trip, but I hope I've given you enough information to help you with your next installation of AutoCAD 2010. Until next time, thanks for watching.